Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 10. Module 10 is our second essay for the class, and this will be the only other major essay for the class. And so what you're going to be doing here is focusing on poetry. So with fiction, we did an analysis essay. Now you're going to be doing a comparison essay. So let me show you what's going on in this module. Just like the last one, you do have that option to turn in some pre-writing before you get started actually drafting your essay. And that pre-writing, I try to check early on, but you can also send me an email and I'll try to go in and check your outline or whatever it is that you've turned in to let you know whether or not you're right on the right track. And then all of the other resources in this module are just to help you write this essay. So we've got the essay assignment right here, and then we've got some resources here. The resources are mostly review because hopefully by this point you're a little bit more comfortable with writing an essay. And you should be either taking Comp 1 right now or have already taken it. And so you should, by this point, really be getting into, what does it mean to write an essay? What do we need in an essay? That kind of thing. So this is your assignment. It's a little bit different from the analysis essay because you have two options. The first option is just a traditional essay for those of you who just want some more practice writing a comparison. All you need to do is choose two poems out of the textbook and then compare them. You want to compare them based on one central idea. So a lot of students will use theme because theme can also encompass some other things, but you could also use something like rhythm or rhyme scheme or something like that. You could take two sonnets and compare them based on form. So you want to pick just one topic for comparison, one focus for your comparison, so that central idea needs to be one. And a lot of students, the main issue that I see is students trying to pick like 3 different things to compare it based on. And so that can sometimes, it just lacks focus at that point. So you want 3 main points to elaborate on. And so you want to pick something like theme is a good one because you can see theme used in multiple different ways in the different poems. You're going to use what's called point-by-point comparison. Point-by-point means that each paragraph will cover both poems. So you're not covering like one poem and then the next poem in the next paragraph and then the next poem in the next paragraph and then and separating them out like that, and you're not covering everything about one poem and then everything about the other poem. You're combining them together. So point by point means that each paragraph is around one central idea that you want to cover. So if you're looking at theme, you could look at the way that theme is presented in both poems using language or something like that. That would be your first paragraph, and so forth. It's not a very long paper. You can see it's only supposed to be a 5-paragraph essay, and then the documentation requirements are fairly limited. You want to use those MLA style works cited page with the 2 poems listed. I've got those examples in the module for you for how to do something from the textbook. And then make sure that you are telling us which poem is which if you quote specific lines, referring back to authors or poem titles or something like that, so that we're just clear which comes from which. That's the main in-text requirement there. And so the essay itself is fairly traditional feeling. There's an example in the textbook of a comparison, and so you just want to make sure that you are keeping it focused and kind of specific to those 2 poems. What I would do is pick 2 poems that have some really obvious connections here. So don't make it too challenging for yourself. You could even do 2 poems by the same author because you'll see a lot of crossover from one to another for, kind of what their ideas are and how you can see they worked through them. So that's the traditional option. The other option is to use AI. And this is one of the few assignments where you're actually allowed to use AI if you want to. And basically what you're going to do is go into an AI generator of your choice and ask it to create an essay for you, a comparison between 2 poems. The main thing that you want to do is think about how can you challenge the AI to come up with something unique or different. So I would pick 2 poems that I would not write a traditional essay about because I would think they would be too difficult to find similarities between, because I'm just curious to see what AI comes up with. So what you're going to do then is, once that AI paper has been generated, your paper will be an analysis of it. So you can't just turn in the AI paper and call it good. You're going to analyze your whatever was generated in your analysis. So it's going to be similar to that first essay that we wrote. So if you're not wanting to try and do a comparison on your own, this is going to be similar to that, fiction analysis where you're breaking down the AI generated essay. So we've already done something similar. Your thesis is going to tell us overall how well you thought the comparison was. And then you also want to make sure that you're naming the titles and authors of your poems, as well as like the AI program that you use. You can include the prompt that you gave it, that kind of thing. And then your body paragraphs, again, 3 body paragraphs, so we have a 5-paragraph essay, is just going to break down the analysis. So you can talk about the quality of the writing, you can talk about the comparison. Is there anything missing? Is it making connections that you would have made? Is it missing connections that you might have seen? Is it, is there any part of the criteria that it didn't follow, that kind of thing? And it may be part of the prompt that you gave it, and it also may be just how it, the poems that you chose. But how well does it make that analysis? Does it make any mistakes? That kind of thing. And then your conclusion will kind of sum everything up. You will also include a works cited page for this one that just lists the 2 poems from the textbook, just like the other options. So you're going to have that works cited page. But then the in-text citations you don't really need unless if you're going to quote directly from the AI paper, just put quotation marks around it. Otherwise, you don't need any in-text citations because you're not necessarily using the poems directly, unless you do, in which case just include like the author's name or something. But you are turning in both essays. So, and you need to make sure that they're labeled. A lot of times students will do this in the title. So they'll say, analysis of the AI paper, and then they will have a title for the AI paper itself. It may be generated by the AI program. So a same length and everything as far as your analysis is concerned. But the whole thing will be longer because you have actually 2 essays that you're turning in. So this is my example here. I just asked Perplexity to compare. I picked 2 very random poems, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, We Real Cool. I'm actually not even sure if these are in the textbook. I just pulled them out of the top of my head, and then had it put together this comparison. And I was surprised that it actually did come up with some things to write about. And so that's great. But you'll notice that right away, it's using like 3 different points for comparison, as opposed to like the one central focus. And so it's really comparing them based on the theme of the fragility of human spirit kind of thing, which I feel like is a little bit of a stretch. But then it goes through, and it talks about the 2 poems, but it separates out the comparison, and then it starts to put them together. So it's not quite the same as what we would want in the essay itself. So I've got some things to critique. Overall, it comes up with some good ideas, but you can see that there's a lot of wording, like that I would not use, trochaic octameter. Like I'm probably not, unless I'm looking specifically at the rhyme scheme there, I'm not going to be using some of the terminology that they use. Some of the language that's used is kind of beyond what I would write. And so a lot of times students will look at AI writing and think, wow, that sounds really great. But when you really break it down, when you really ask yourself, what kind of words is it using? Is that normal? No, it's not. It's very, very cold and kind of distant writing. And so I would probably make some comments on that as well. It also doesn't include works cited page, which I didn't ask it to. So if I were to, I could probably tweak my prompt a little bit to get more of what I want. But just based on the first thing that it comes up with, there's obviously some issues with how it's put it together. So that's the kind of thing that you're doing. My analysis, I want to have something to analyze. So I would leave it like that and then write my analysis based on that. So And that's your task, is to come up with your 2 poems and either use the AI or write it on your own, and create that comparison between them and see what you can learn from it. So if you have questions as you write this essay, let me know. If you want me to look over your pre-writing early on in the module, send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.